Hello. The family of a young man killed on a Duke of Edinburgh award adventure has tonight criticised the Earl of Wessex for his remarks about the scheme.
Prince Edward said some youngsters were attracted to the awards because there was a risk of death. But the comments made in Australia have made the relatives of Aaron Goss from Northamptonshire very angry. Aaron drowned 3 years ago during a Duke of Edinburgh expedition in South America. His father described the comments as ridiculous.
Aaron Goss on his Duke of Edinburgh trip in Ecuador. Just days after this photograph, the 17-year-old was dead. His father, Jeff, now wants better safety for youngsters going on trips. He says Prince Edward's comments are deeply offensive.
The reputation amongst young people, oh wow, this is serious. You could die doing this. Young people are like that. They, that's still that sense of adventure, the sense that it is possible. Obviously, we don't want that to happen, do we? And certainly that's not the intention.
You could die doing this, that sense of adventure. Those were the Prince's comments. What do you make of that?
I find them very disturbing. The fact that you could die like this, I don't think any parent would send any child on a school trip thinking that their life was in danger.
The Prince made the remarks in Australia after being asked about the death of a teenager on a hiking trip there. Aaron Goss died in Ecuador in 2006. He disappeared after his group swam in this river. His body was found days later.
I certainly wouldn't have sent my son on a trip should I have thought that he might have had a chance of dying. And many other parents have approached me since my son's death saying that they've refused to send their children on such trips.
The Duke of Edinburgh scheme began in 1956, offering bronze, silver and gold awards to youngsters taking on varied tasks. Its organisers say their trips are safe.
For young people, it's an adventure. It's a challenge to them. That's what we're about. We're about giving young people the appropriate challenge. So, and that might be different for all different young people. They've all got parents, guardians, families who, want them to come back safely, and they do come back safely.
Of course, for Aaron Goss, that wasn't the case. His father now hopes Prince Edward's comments will reignite the debate around safety. Mike Cartwright, BBC Look East.
Tonight, the Silverstone circuit in Northamptonshire is back in contention for the British Grand Prix next year. The on-off saga is back on after plans for a move to Donington Park collapsed. Formula One Supremo Bernie Ecclestone said today it was now up to Silverstone. The BBC commentator Martin Brundle is tonight in Abu Dhabi for the final Grand Prix of the season. When I spoke to him late this afternoon, I asked him what he made of the latest developments.
I'm concerned for the future of the British Grand Prix, to be frank. I never thought it would happen at Donington. I thought there was a snowball in hell's chance of them getting that circuit ready for next year. So much work to do there, and I don't think it's really the right place to represent the British Grand Prix anyway. Silverstone is. Can they get a deal together with Bernie Ecclestone? I don't know. I think that's going to be quite a challenge.
Who do you think has to give ground in order for this to happen?
Both sides to an extent, but, when Bernie drives into a facility like this here in Abu Dhabi, he's going to be thinking, well, this is what I want for the future of Formula One. Why should I take less money from other circuits? And let's not forget, there is no French Grand Prix at the moment. We thought that might be sacrosanct. Germany is wavering around, so we could well not have a British Grand Prix. And I can understand Bernie's thought process to an extent, as I say, especially when you look at this lot here. But, What can they do? They can't just generate money out of nowhere for Silverstone to meet the costs of the race if it's not economically viable.
Lots of people will say because we have such a strong motor racing industry here in the eastern counties, for example, that the British Grand Prix has to continue. If it doesn't, does that mean the end of all of those people who work so hard for motor racing in this region, do you think?
Well, it'll be a big blow for British motorsport if we lose the British Grand Prix, for sure. But, it's still the nerve centre of the world of motorsport. There's no doubt about that. But we don't want to lose it like we lost the motorcycle industry and, to a large extent, the car industry. But it's still where the core skills and knowledge are based within a 50-mile radius of Silverstone. And that we're not going to lose that overnight.
All right, hand on heart, do you think that there will be a British Grand Prix, and do you think it will be at Silverstone next year?
Wouldn't bet my house on it, but I do think there'll be a British Grand Prix at Silverstone with some fairly tough negotiations meanwhile. And, Silverstone is probably the 10th or 12th best circuit we go to in the world. There are many of them that are much worse than Silverstone. I know Bernie thinks the British government are putting gazillions into the Olympics, so why not put some money into the F1 race if it's so important to Britain and its industry? But, you know, they're fights that'll have to take place over the next few weeks.
Martin Brundle, thank you very much.
Thanks, Stuart.
Martin Brundle, and of course you can see live coverage of the Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi Sunday 12:10 on BBC One.
A boy of 13 has become Britain's youngest victim of the recession. Kane Middleton earns less than £7 a week as a paperboy in the Bedfordshire village of Clophill. But now he's received official notification of redundancy, explaining his rights and details of severance terms.
The recession has hit many of us hard. First, there were the queues of worried savers at Northern Rock. Then the shutters came down at Woolworths. And the recession's latest victim is 13-year-old paperboy Kane Middleton. Just 2 months into the job, he's been made redundant. He was sent a letter outlining his redundancy package, saying he was entitled to 1 week's pay in lieu of notice, which equates to £6.93, subject to tax and national insurance.
I think it's ridiculous when a child tries to be independent that he's getting squashed. You know, he's trying to fend for himself and learn how to save and buy things out of his own money rather than come cap in hand to his parents. Then as soon as he tries to be independent, he's slapped down again.
Kane's employers, Letterbox Direct, have declined to comment on the matter, but they did tell Kane that his redundancy had nothing to do with the standard of his work. It was, they said, purely down to marketing data. How difficult is the job market in Clophill for 13-year-olds?
Quite difficult because there's not really any jobs to get because there's only the post office to really get a job.
Mowing lawns, washing cars?
No, there isn't really that many.
Kane took the paper round so he could buy his hamster a new cage and regular treats. His redundancy means little splodge must go without. Joel Mapp, BBC Look East at Clophill in Bedfordshire.
Oh dear.
Still to come in Look East, the two sisters who didn't make